3, 2, 1. We're live.
We're live. Cheers, bud.
Cheers,
All
man.
right.
Where are we?
We are, this is the second episode we're shooting at my house. We got drinks again, but no mushrooms and no cigars this time. So yeah, I thought episode 21 would be like, man, it's going to be so good. We're doing it. I'm like, man, this is awesome. And I watched it later. I'm like, man, it wasn't nearly as clear on my thoughts as they were in my head, dude.
I thought you were 100%. Like
okay.
I thought the conversation was just amazing no matter what.
It was a lot of fun.
Episode 21, guys. Go check that out.
Yeah, but it'd probably make more sense if you do shrooms and then listen to the episode. Then you'll get what I'm saying.
Talked about aliens and all that type of shit.
It was good, man.
That was a fun episode. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, that was good. But yeah, we were at my house here in San Diego, or Pacific Beach. And so if you hear cars driving by or dogs yapping or neighbors yelling at my cats or me yelling at my cats.
Homeless people, drunk college kids.
Drop kick some motherfuckers in the sidewalk. But yeah, if you hear any other sounds other than our beautiful, sexy voices, it's probably just the neighborhood. So there you go. And it's PB, so there's probably something going to happen.
PB. So it's episode 33, right? So
yeah.
What were you doing when you were 33, Ryan?
Good question. That's a good question. I feel like I just had my early 30s that was all doing the same shit, and then my late 30s, which is doing different shit. But it's all kind of very similar. I feel like I was still in that stage of just getting my shit together, but also that feeling of not having made it and like just feeling like time's running out, and I feel like I'm just annoyed, you know. That was starting to creep in at 33. I'm like, fuck, dude, I got to get my shit together. I got to do it fast. Everybody's doing these big things, and I'm just here, you know, volunteering at a clothing line.
So you're in San Diego though? Still in San Diego?
Yeah, I've been here since '98. I love it, man. I thought about moving someplace else so many times, but dude, I just love the weather here.
Because you did move to Texas. And that's what I think the last time we talked about was episode 21 when you moved to Texas.
Yeah, I'm such a bitch with the heat though, dude. Like cold I'm okay with, but the heat, I just cannot. I can't deal with being hot or hungry. I just turned into like the biggest pussy ever. If Buzz was about being hot instead of cold, I would have quit for sure. Like, fuck this shit.
Hell yeah, man. All right. Well, episode 33, we got a question in. Yeah. And we're going to review it right now.
Hey, Coda and Ryan, what is going on? This is Aleem. I'm the founder and CEO of Limitless Living. We are an empowerment-based streetwear brand getting up and running. And I wanted to say I love listening to your podcast. I just love hearing the stories and the mindset and the gems that you guys share in your entrepreneurial journey. My question is specifically regarding validating my designs. So I have a couple designs on my website right now, and I want to know if people actually like it. I want to know if this is something that people will buy. I could ask family and friends, but they will tell me it looks good because they're my family and friends. But how do I actually know that this is a design that the marketplace really wants? I don't have a huge following right now on social media, so it's not like I can do a poll and get a good sample size of responses, but I want to know what's the quickest way to find out or not if my design is good or not, so that I can either stick with it and continue to expand on it or ditch it and come up with another design. Appreciate the thoughts.
Yeah, dude, I love these specific apparel clothes because everything else, like entrepreneurship in life, I'm like, I'm kind of guessing at because I'm still figuring out entrepreneurship in life. But with apparel, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. There are sometimes some black and white answers. So, Aleem, thanks for sending that in. Is he the only one that sent a video?
Yeah.
Aleem, thank you. The rest of you guys, send us some fucking videos. We need some cool shit. So we're going to give a shout out to Aleem and Limitless Clothing or Limitless Apparel.
Limitless Living.
Limitless Living. Yeah. Cool. So that's super common. And I'm glad that he's asking these questions because, I mean, dude, self-awareness is a superpower. And the fact that he's even aware that his perception of the designs might be different than how they're perceived in the marketplace is awesome, right? So he's aware of that, which is step one. Step two that he's asking is how to actually figure out what the market wants. There's a couple ways on this, but I will say before we get into the tactics of it, it's sometimes when you're starting a clothing line, it's all about you and your stuff and your vision into the world. And it's sometimes very frustrating when like you put your heart and soul into a design or like an image or some kind of meaning or message. and then it doesn't sell well. And you feel like, dude, am I fucking this up? Like, should I even be doing this? Like, I'm not a designer. Nobody likes my shit. But what I found is that it's absolutely normal. Even some of these big brands that are like, 10, 20, $25 million brands, they still don't know. They still don't know for sure what's going to sell. So they still have to test. And you as a brand owner have to realize that. I remember with Forge, there were the few designs that I would labor over for like 13 hours and like hundreds of layers. And I'm getting nitty gritty on like the vector points and the layer, just making it like tits, I was like going off on it. And it sold okay, but it wasn't like gangbusters, And I was kind of disappointed because those are some of my favorite designs. And
you spent a lot of time doing that.
A lot of time. And I'm like, dude, this is the baddest thing ever. It's going to be so cool. And they're like, The market was like, it's cool. Whatever. But then I had these throwaway designs that I was just like, I'll just put this stuff out there and see how it goes. And they went gangbusters. So you never really know what's going to hit. So testing is a great asset if you can test. There's a couple ways to test. It depends on what model you have. So if you have a print-on-demand model, like a DTG, direct-to-garment printer, that's one way. The other way that I prefer to do it is screen printing. But the problem with screen printing is you have to actually create the products ahead of time and have them in all the sizes and all the colors in order to sell them. And you have to order them in bulk. So you have to really commit to your design and hope that it works. So when you're first starting out and budget is really low and you don't have the option of testing on social media, print on demand is a great option. But the problem is print on demand it can't be done with screen printing because screen printing requires a whole bunch of setup for each design. So it's not feasible to get one order and then go print it. So print on demand means they don't actually have any inventory at all. It's great because you can have 25 different designs all up on a website and 25 designs in 3 different colors each and all the sizing ratios in them. But to get that in inventory would be a 15,000 square foot warehouse just to hold all the inventory for that. Right. And tens and tens of thousands of dollars to get the inventory. So you don't even know if it's going to sell. So you don't really want to test that in real life with an inventory model, but you can test that with print on demand model. The issues you'll run into is that it's a great starting point. So you can create the brand and get all this stuff out there without having to put a whole bunch of money up into product. The problems you're going to run into with that is that there's no economy of scale with it. So with printing, if you print, 100 t-shirts, it might be $15. If you print 1,000 t-shirts, it might be $7, depending on some variability. But with volume, your costs go down quite a bit. Whereas with print on demand, it might cost you $20, $22 for one, which is great. But if you buy 1,000, it's still $20 to $22. There's no economy of scale. So you're never going to really make a whole lot of margin with print on demand model, simply because it has to be done with DDG and there's limitations to that. It's not a fast process. The other issue with that is that direct-to-garment printers are not, currently the technology is not as good as screen printing. So it's kind of like a really thick print. It's not breathable. It feels like a sticky plastic, like worse than plastisol inks. It feels like something you get at the fair. Like it just is not a quality thing. And then they tend to peel quite a bit and they'll rub off a lot. So I don't think most brands would be happy with that as a quality product. And also you're very limited with your customization. So you can't do like private label neck labels, individual folding bagging. Most of those operations don't have the capability of doing like, handwritten cards and go in. It's not very customizable. So print on demand is a fantastic option if you don't know what's going to work and you're just starting out and you don't have a whole lot of capital, a whole lot of reach. You just got some cool designs that you think you're going to hit and you can just put them up on a website, test them, and see what happens. You still have to get traffic to that. So that's where marketing comes in, advertising. It's a whole different ballgame. I would suggest print on demand model. It's going to be great for him starting out. And then push on social media. Just tell the story of the brand and what the brand means to you. Like what's the message and the mission of the brand? What do you see in it? Like, why does it mean so much to you? Why are you passionate about what you're doing? Like, what does limitless living mean? And if you can do that, people will start to identify with it. The Instagram and the social will gain traction, and then you'll have a viable audience that you can test with and that will actually buy your product. That's a good way to start. I personally don't like that model. Like I know it makes financial sense, and if you're a good marketer, it makes sense. But I don't know if you guys can hear this, like a biplane going overhead right now. Dude, side note, the beach the other day, I think it was 4th of July, some chick had hired a biplane to, those banners that go behind them?
Yeah.
Advertise her OnlyFans.
No fucking way.
Yeah, dude.
Just to see like her own thing?
Well, there's like tens of thousands of people on the beach, and it was like something Ashley OnlyFans or something like that.
Bruh, she probably make bank that day.
But she probably makes more money than me.
Dude, it's the side note. Jeez Louise, that's crazy.
Yeah, print on demand. Print on demand ass. Anyway, different platform.
Still lucrative.
yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Sell titty pics. Where were we? Okay, yeah, so that's one option. I personally have never done that option. Primary reason being it wasn't available at the level that it is now in 2007. Like Teespring didn't exist. All these other places that do high-level print-on-demand operations just didn't exist. So it wasn't an option. So we went into screen printing. We had, I think, 3 or 4 designs when we first started, and they were cool designs, but it was more like, it was just like you talked about. It's your friends and your family that buy it, and that's pretty much just the main supporting characters that are going to do it, and that's normal. It's totally normal. But what we did with that was one of the ways we screwed up is we're like, dude, we don't know. What if we print them on black, but what if somebody wants a green shirt? What if somebody wants a red shirt? What about a blue shirt? What about gray? All this stuff. So we ended up printing these designs in 7 different colors. And we thought we were super smart covering the bases. And then we realized, okay, we have one design, 7 different colors. We also have to get each one in different sizes. So it became like this massive amount of stuff that we didn't realize when we placed the order. We're like, oh, that's a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, right.
A lot of shit.
This is still in testing? Like
this is like literally our first order. We're like, oh, we're so smart doing all this stuff. Yeah, we were not smart. And that's where we discovered the paradox of choice, where if you give somebody like 7 options, the average consumer, they're just like, oh, well, black is cool, but gray looks good. Oh, what about red? And then they put it in the cart. And then they like, oh, I'll figure it out later. Then they never come back and they never buy. Whereas if you just had 1 option or 2 options, they're probably going to buy something.
Right.
And Mike and I coined it as I think it was his he's really good with names. So I think this is probably, I credit him for this, but it was the pepperoni pizza and Coors Light theory, where he said, if you go to a party, there's 100 people at the party, and you go around to everybody, and you're like, hey, what kind of beer do you want? What kind of pizza do you want? Oh, somebody's a fucking vegan. Somebody wants pepperoni. Somebody wants meat supreme. Somebody wants garden. Somebody wants whatever. And you got Amstel Light. You got Pabst. You got all these different beer options. So you're running to the store, and you got this massive grocery cart coming back. If you try to accommodate everybody, but if you just show the fuck up at the party with a stack of pepperoni pizzas and a keg of Coors Light, you're going to be everybody's going to be happy.
Yep.
They're going to eat what you fucking give them,
100%.
and the keg's going to be dry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just going to eat what you give them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lesson learned for us. It's like, we just have to define what it is. And you'll have typically a brand like that has 5 variables or something like that. You'll have one that sells 50 to 60% of all of them, one that sells 30 to 40%, and the rest are going to be usually 10% or less. So if you see that happening in the data, then my suggestion would be, when you move from a print-on-demand model to an inventory model, or when you reprint that, only print the number 1 best-selling color and maybe the number 2 if it's like over 30%. Other than that, just ditch all the colors that don't sell. If guys start with the print-on-demand model, normally it makes sense to, at some point, switch over to inventory model with screen printing, because you're going to make so much more margin. Like, it's almost impossible to grow a print-on-demand model these days, because they used to do it, but they would rely on advertising. But the problem is now advertising is so expensive, it's next to impossible to be profitable on acquiring a new customer. And with print-on-demand stuff, it's usually not you're not really creating a brand, you're selling a design. So there's not a whole lot of loyalty. So people don't usually come back to that brand. And that's the difference between like selling t-shirts and creating a brand.
Right.
There's a big difference in how the consumer treats that product, whether it's from a brand or whether it's just some t-shirt that they bought online. So screen printing is it's usually the move. Like you can build a print on demand model up to, a couple $100,000 in revenue. Like maybe there probably are some guys that got over $1 million, but it's pretty rare because normally at some point you have to switch to an inventory model. You have to switch to screen printing because you want neck labels, you want individual folding bagging, you want customization, you want higher quality, you want more options with blank selection because DDG printers can only print 100% cotton as well.
Quick question. What about if you just like bought your own screen printer?
Oh, yeah, this is the second most common question because it makes sense.
Right.
But in reality, it's a totally different operation.
Right.
And you'll end up spending your time, like when you actually make orders, you'll kind of get pissed like, okay, awesome, we made an order, but now I have to go spend the time printing everything. And you're basically doing two completely different jobs. So even though the product is linear, the functions of running a clothing line versus running a print shop are completely different.
Right.
There's not hardly any overlap in them at all other than the actual product. So the guys that do that, they normally end up having to make a decision like, okay, am I going to go all in on being a brand or am I going to go all in on being a print shop? And most brands end up outsourcing their stuff to other shops. In fact, there's another brand, it's a $25 million clothing brand. They're their own screen printing shop, but they give us a lot of their overflow work because we only do screen printing. So we're very efficient in what we do. We do like 30,000 units a day. So for them, they're like, cool, yeah, you run this, you do all this, so they don't have to worry about it. So even though it's slightly more expensive than them doing it themselves, it's way faster for them because they're a big operation, dude. They don't have time to fuck around with all this stuff and get it on the press. And then it's a different animal.
Damn.
So yeah, it's super common for people to think that. We thought that at one point too. And I think we did get some presses
because like a thing is, right, you can get a press, but then you got coloring, stencil. Like there's a lot of other things that come into play. It's not just like, oh, I have the machine now. Oh, but like I have the other equipment.
I mean, if you want to get like a 4-color press and make shitty t-shirts in your basement, absolutely, totally fine. That'll work. But if you want to run like a full-on operation, like create a clothing brand, you need an automatic. To run an automatic, you need somebody who's experienced with it. Now you're hiring personnel. Now you're running payroll. Now you got HR issues. Now you've got all these other things to work out. And none of them have to do with selling actually apparel. It has to do with making them.
You're still testing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there are options with it. But typically a brand, once they get big enough, 90% of the time will have to make a choice on which one they do. There are some that do both. But those are usually pretty big operations. I think 9line does that. Ground Style does that. And there's a few other ones, but they're all like, I don't know their exact revenue, but they're, well into the 8 figures, if not 9 figures.
Got it. So like going back into like the design, right? Where it's just like, how else can you test it? There's part of me as an outsider, if I was to start something, I'd be like, all right, well, I could do ad spend. Right. Sometimes I might not have the capital to do ad spend, like just throw an ad out there and see what happens, or make a viral video or go to the beach and ask people, choose a design, which one's cooler. I don't know, So what other things come into play?
And to be honest, it's exactly that. Like you can do all that for sure. Even just going and asking people on the beach, like you make a sample of each and you go and ask people on the beach, that's a cool video.
Right.
And that'll probably get some traction. And then you post in the story, like you'll get all the new followers they'll want to, hey, you want to contribute to deciding which one we do. And people love that and they get into it. But it's a lot of work. There really is no way around the work. Like it's gonna cost you either time or money. And you just got to choose. If you don't have money, you got to spend a lot of time. And if you don't have the time, you got to spend a lot of money on ad spend to push it out there and get the reach. I think everything works. It's just some things are more efficient than others. Yeah. I honestly, if I were to do it again, I would do it exactly the same way I did. I would just throw out, if I have a dozen designs in my head that I really like, I choose 3 or 4 that I think are going to be hitters. I'd put each one in maybe 2 different colors. So like black always sells better than every other color. Well, just about. But 90% of situations, black is going to be your best seller across almost all designs. So I'd run every color in black, and then every color I'd also do like 30% in 40% in a separate color. So one design might be like black and blue. One design might be black and red, or black and gray, or black and white. So now out of those 4 designs, it looks like I've got 8 different variations on the site. There are 4 designs split into 2 different colors. So it looks like 8. So it looks like a fairly big launch for a small brand. But you just get like whatever the minimum order is with your print shop. Like ours is 100 units. So just get 100 units, like 60% black, 40% the other color. You break it down over the sizing ratio. Usually, a regular brand, medium through 2XL to start, and then you just see how it goes.
Right.
And it's a big gamble, dude. When you have only $3,000 to start, and it takes all $3,000 to do it, it's a huge gamble, man. And there's no way around it. Because at the end of the day, all you can do is just have your best guess until the market tells you what they want.
Mm-hmm. I think that's like, I try to like bring it like back to video, right? Where if I want a video to go viral, right? I don't try to make videos go viral. I create content for things that people enjoy, right? I can easily make a viral video. I could go run in front of a car.
Yeah.
Done. that would go viral. But I think it's putting something viral that relates to your brand. You know what I mean?
The right message attached to it.
And I think when I create videos like that, I think it's kind of reminds me of like creating a logo or a design, because it's like I spend hours doing it, but will it get views? Maybe. Yeah, with the audience I have. But is it going to reach the people that I haven't reached yet? We'll see. So it's one of those things I feel like you just got to try it.
Yeah.
The imperfect, like taking action, like imperfect action is like better than taking no action.
That's a great point then, because excuse me, it brings up like the first thing I ever tell anybody who we talk with who wants to start an apparel brand is that apparel brands don't actually sell apparel, which is weird, but they sell a lifestyle. So your job as the apparel brand owner is not to create the coolest designs or whatever. It's to create the messaging and the mission. Like, what are you doing? Like, what does this mean to you? And to get other people as excited as you are about the brand and what it means,
Right.
So if you can articulate that in a way that resonates with other people, like really crafting the message in a way where it hits with them, then they're going to buy whatever the fuck you put out.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be the best design, but it doesn't matter to them. It's not about the design. It's what the design means.
Mm-hmm. There's something I want you to share before we kind of wrap up. You said it before, but you said you would take polls on social media of designs that you've done, and you're like, people would love it, but they wouldn't wear that as the tattoo of the day. Like, what's that?
So there's a difference when you're testing. Well, number one, people always say they're buy it until it comes to checkout, and they're like, I don't want to pay $4 for shipping
next week.
Yeah, exactly. There's always a but. There are differences between like if you have like a meme page and you're like, oh, this is our best meme. We're just going to put it on a t-shirt and it'll sell. There's a huge difference between what people like and what people want to represent.
Yeah.
It's something else. It's something like, oh, I like that. That's funny. I'm going to like it. It's a whole different thing to be like, I want to wear this on my chest and have everybody think this about me. Because that's really what you're saying when you're putting a t-shirt on. It's like, this is how I want to be viewed by the world. And if it's some meme that you're like, oh, it's funny, but it looks super awkward, or just it's a weird context to have it on your body and wear it as a t-shirt, that's where people get confused. We're like, well, it tested really well on social. It got a lot of likes and comments. Like, yeah, but do people really want to walk around with this on their chest? And a lot of times it's no.
Right.
No,
right. Because it's easy to double tap. Like, well, that's funny. Or in the moment, like, oh, I like that. And then you're like, Oh, is it enough to whip out my credit card for? Is it enough for me to wake up, take a shower, and then put it on, and then walk out the door? You know what I mean? It's that aspect too.
Well, like I might like Nikes, but I don't want to wear them on my hands. You know, like you got to have it in the right context, like because the medium is different. Like what you like online and social is different than what you want to represent and have yourself viewed like in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think how I go about it for a video. Like in the aspect of like he is starting from scratch. He's like, oh, I just wanted to see a design. Like, how could he do a video that would just like help maybe get footage out there? Because if you're not doing video, you gotta be doing video. And the first thing I think I said in the beginning, and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting, is go get people's opinions.
Yeah.
You could go do anything. Ryan, if you walked on the beach with a board or a pizza box, oh, what's he doing with the pizza box? You know what I mean? Like, he's walking around with people, like asking if they want a slice of pizza for like if they answer a question right.
Yeah.
Random shit. But it can go big, viral because people are curious.
And people understand that when people do that now, it's okay, you're making a video. Yeah. You're a TikToker, whatever it is. Yeah.
It's true, but I think it just depends on what you are. Where if you're like, today we're going to go choose the best design, whatever, like gets the first to 20, we're going to make a shirt. It's like, okay. And then you go do it, at least. And then you go get someone's tally. That one, tally. Next one, tally. And just see like, ooh, it's a competition now. What one's the best? Then the viewer gets their own opinion of it. And they're like, oh no, comment below. What do you think? Did that should have won? You know anything? So it's kind of just like.
Yeah, the best thing you can do to get people involved. And so people are never going to see what you see about your brand or anything in life through your own eyes unless you specifically tell them what you see, how you see it, and also how it applies to them. So a great video, if you're starting a new apparel brand, you got a new design, talk about why you chose what you chose. Like, hey, this is a snake with a hand wrapped around it. This represents this. This means this because this happened to me in my life, and we chose these colors to represent this. This is a badass design. It's dropping next week. If you're interested, like pre-order, here's the link right now. Pre-orders are a cool option too. You can test out with that. They're kind of tricky though. I wouldn't recommend it starting out. I mean, once you get a little traction and you know your production pipeline and you start to know your audience and all that, pre-orders can be good, but there's so many moving parts to it. And most of the time it gets messed up and then you're going to piss off your customers and because you just don't know what you're doing yet. So I would say maybe leave the pre-orders until like you have a solid supply chain. UPS knows or USPS knows your pickup routes. You have packaging ready to go. Like just wait on the pre-orders. They're an awesome model to use, but you just have to have a few pieces in place first before you jump into a pre-order model. Unless you don't care about pissing off your customers, but this is the wrong podcast. If you want to just go be a marketing fucker and sell a bunch of bullshit to people, it's different. So Aleem, all you guys listening, Aleem, first off, thank you for sending in the video.
Thank you. Aleem's the man.
So his Instagram is Limitless Living Co. All one word, no, what do you call it? Spaces?
Yeah, no underscores, nothing. Link in the bio.
Dude. Link in the bio, there we go. So it looks good. Limitless living, empowering you through an abundance and growth mindset, apparel. Instagram looks good. There's this little section that says about the founder, and it's cool. It goes into what he's about and all that. But when I was watching it, something came to mind is that there's two reasons people follow somebody or get involved in a clothing line. Usually it's the founder. Most apparel brands are founder driven. But it's not so much about the founder story as it is what about the founder story can the audience pull into their own life. So Aleem, and those of you guys that are listening, you should go check out his Instagram so you can see the story it says about the founder that I'm talking about. And it's a great story about coming up from Pakistan and grinding and working for the American dream and pursuing his passions and vision. That's awesome. That's cool. The one thing I would suggest is to tie that into something that the audience can get behind. So make it about them, not you. Take your story and say, this story is for everyone who wants to build and grind and create their own dreams as well. This story is for everyone who's overcome obstacles and wants to keep going and wants more out of life. So don't make it about yourself. Make it about the things that you've overcome that are common problems or common challenges that people have and share your vision and your story about how you're overcoming those and document the journey and allow people to follow along. But realize when you're telling the story is not about you. The story is how about the audience can relate and get what they need to empower and improve their life from your story. So don't forget to include the audience in that. Other than that, this is good. He's putting in a lot of work. He's got great content. Yeah, I would say just make the brand more about the audience and less about you. You are the icon, the lighthouse, the figurehead of it, but you got to shine the light around you and pick up other people in order to bring them into your own light.
Oh yeah, man.
It's cool, man. Let's put in work. I dig it.
Appreciate you sending that in. And two, if you ever need video work or in the aspect of filming, if you're local or you just need to pick my brain. No, but seriously, I appreciate you sending in. If you have any questions, like a video of like how to maybe make some videos that we're talking about in this podcast, just hit me up. Definitely want to lead you in the right direction because you took action.
Yeah, dude, modern apparel brands are so content driven.
Right.
So content driven.
It is.
It didn't used to be like that. Because the only content you had before was like maybe an ad in a magazine or something. And they used to be like $3,000 to $5,000. You can get it for like $1,500 now.
I love what you said before we're wrapping up again, but it made me think about like when you're like, they don't care about you. Customers, they really don't. They care about what that is about, right?
Yeah.
So when I see someone that's walking, just for me, like a full send shirt, shout out to the Nuck Boys. Like I just appreciate that brand because like they grew that shit, right? If I see him, I'm like, that's a frat boy or whatever. I'm not a frat guy, but I just like he knows what's up in that way. Yeah. Same thing with Lions Not Sheep. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're part of that. You know, we have that in common. You know, so it's that automatic connection that you're like, hey, you're cool. You know?
Yeah. A great way to define a brand, because people are always talking about what the brand is, which is definitely the focus. But don't forget the power of the negative too. There's a huge opportunity to define something by what it is not. That's what Lions Not Sheep did great. It's not just about, the positive aspect of it. It's like, leading from the front, being a lion for, your own life and your family, but it's about what it is not about. Like, hey, we're not for fuckers wearing masks. We're not for these soy boy little bitches, living off their mama's tit and living in the basement for fucking 40 years. Like, we are not about that. We're anti that. So sometimes it's really useful to define something by describing very clearly what it is not. Sometimes actually, I found that very useful in describing or finding out what I want, particularly because most people don't know what they want. It's very normal. But I'm like, okay, if I don't know exactly what I want in some certain thing, I know what I don't want. And sometimes you can kind of just, through process of elimination, you can shine the light on where you want to go.
It's a club. It's like, you tell them straight up, this is what we are. You're either not or you are. Yeah. And it's kind of like, oh shit.
Yeah,
like,
it's like
that's me.
It's like a Hell's Angels club, dude. You know, like you can assume certain things about, a Hell's Angel. It's a brand. You're like, okay, well, that guy's probably not shopping at Trader Joe's for tofu. I mean, maybe they are, but it's unlikely, and probably takes less shit than the average person. There are certain things you can assume, but a lot of that is not just the positive. It's by being very clear about the negative, not in the negative way, but in like a negative space where you leave out something.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks again, man. Appreciate you sending that in. For everyone else that's listening and watching, send us something. DM us. That's what he did. He's on the podcast now. We gave him a shout out. Go follow him. And yeah, it just helps us have topics to talk about because we love doing it. We love helping you guys. So yeah.
Yeah, let us know. It's free advertising for you. All 7 people that...
Just 7 until 7 million.
You're going to have 158 followers after this.
Hell yeah, like dude. A boss.
Balling.
Hell yeah, man. All right.
Okay, man. Got to start. Just keep starting, keep growing, keep going. And dude, you'll make it. That's all it is. Just over a long enough timeline, if you just keep going and keep improving, that's mathematical rate for success.
Easy to quit.
Yeah, just sucks going there sometimes too. God, it's fucking tough sometimes. But that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
Guide you guys on the right way. Listen to our beautiful voices on your way to success.
Damn. I like that.
Late night DJ voice. Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, man.
All right. Shake and bake, bro. Cheers.
Cheers, dude.